A special presentation of New York One. Coney Island rides again. And here's New York One's Janine Ramirez.
Hello, I'm Janine Ramirez, and welcome to Coney Island Rides Again. In more than 100 years of operating as an amusement park, there have been some additions, some subtractions, and some things have remained constant. The landmark Dino's Wonder Wheel. Then there's the boardwalk, the beach, the original Nathan's Famous hot dogs, and the wonders of the sideshow. While many of the rides were cutting edge and reaching new heights, there were other points where they took a steep drop running out of gas. Coney Island is on the upswing as Luna Park opens for the season. It's the first new amusement park in the city in 50 years. The entrance is reminiscent of the famed Luna Park of old. Inside, it's all new. 19 rides from the Italian company Zamperla, the largest manufacturer of rides in the world. And the Cyclone roller coaster. Luna Park will serve as Zamperla's showcase, debuting rides for New Yorkers and hopefully attracting visitors from around the globe.
I am very proud to present for the first time in the world here in Coney Island Air Race. This is a fantastic ride where the passengers are going to experience to fly in a jet fighter.
Zamperla won the bid to build here, the site of the former Astroland, after the city bought the property to create an amusement district. Construction started in February with the goal of opening by Memorial Day weekend. And it did, to much fanfare. The mayor and other elected officials marking a new era steeped in tradition.
We don't have to invent our freakishness. We don't have to import characters to Brooklyn. We got the greatest assortments of Michiganders right here.
The park features cutting-edge technology, wristbands that are scanned for entry to the rides. There's also a Luna Park card.
They put money on the card, and they can use that card for retail, for food, for rides, and for games.
And more additions are in the works. Here at the Surf Avenue entrance, there will be a restaurant, and the eateries along the boardwalk will also fall under Luna Park management.
So this year we're going to be checking them out one by one during the summer, see how they're performing, see how they can improve. And then, some of them will stay, some of them will go, and it will be for the better of the Coney Island.
Further down the boardwalk, the city's amusement district will be expanding. On these two Stillwell Avenue lots, Zamperla is set to build another amusement park called Scream Zone for next season.
Well, the next phase is to open the Scream Zone. It's another 4 rides. They're going to be very large rides, the high adrenaline rides like a new roller coaster, a slingshot, the sorts of things that I think are going to really change the skyline of Coney Island.
In a place where the sky is the limit. While the Memorial Day deadline has been met, finishing touches are being done here at Luna Park to make this place a perfect summertime destination. For New Yorkers and visitors the world over, Coney Island has always been a landmark with no less status than the Empire State Building or the Statue of Liberty. In fact, Coney Island has been attracting the masses even before Miss Liberty. New York One's Stephanie Simon gives us a history.
It's always been quite a ride at Coney Island. Once known as the playground to the world, Coney Island was home to the first amusement park and so much more. It was a turn-of-the-century retreat of sun, sand, and spectacle. A walk through the Coney Island Museum on Surf Avenue offers a glimpse into Coney Island's thrilling past.
It's the first amusement park. I mean, hands down. It was the first time anybody had ever put a gate around a place and said, here's a whole bunch of attractions inside, pay your ticket, come in and do it. So there were, at the turn of the century, there were 3 big parks in Coney Island, and each one of them had their own ticket price and their own set of attractions.
Museum curator Aaron Beebe says, at a time when people couldn't leave New York City by car or plane, Coney was the original staycation.
This was Disney long before Disney ever existed. It was the place where you went where everybody in the New York area, from like New Jersey to the end of Long Island, everybody came here. And in the 40s, mid-40s, there were days in the summer when there were 4 million people on the beach in Coney Island.
Outside, Brooklyn Borough historian Ron Schweiger shows us where the 3 main amusement parks thrived at the turn of the century.
We're standing on hallowed ground. Directly behind us is the wonderful Cyclone roller coaster, which opened in 1927. and I believe it's the oldest wooden roller coaster in the United States, and what a ride. A century ago, we had 3 major amusement parks here in Coney Island. You had Dreamland, which was on the site of where the aquarium is today, which is kind of behind the cyclone. You had Dreamland opened in 1904 and burnt down in 1911. Lasted only 7 years. Then you had Luna Park, which was across the street from us over here, opposite the cyclone. And Luna Park opened in 1903 and burnt down in 1944.
Down at the other end of the strip today stands a baseball stadium home to the Brooklyn Cyclones. It was once Steeplechase Park. It was opened in 1897 by a Mr. Tillieu, who originally wanted to buy a new ride from a Mr. Ferris. But Mr. Ferris wouldn't sell him his Ferris wheel, so he made up his own ride instead.
Where the main attraction was the very famous mechanical steeplechase horse ride. And what a ride it was. Now, 10 years later, in 1907, Steeplechase burnt to the ground. The night after the fire, Mr. Tillieu stood in front of the still smoldering ruins with a big sign that said, "On this site will be built a bigger and better Steeplechase Park. Admission to the ruins, 10 cents. He was a businessman.
In its heyday, Coney Island had no rivals when it came to recreation. It was called the City of Fire because it was ablaze in lights. The skyline here was higher than the skyline in Manhattan, and it was the first thing immigrants saw when they came to Manhattan by boat. But of course, like all great rides, it had its ups and downs.
Coney Island had several peaks. There was right at the turn of the century with 3 big amusement parks, and that lasted about 10 years. And then the trains came in, and that became known as the Nickel Empire. You could get to Coney Island for a nickel. Anything you did in Coney Island cost you a nickel. And so during the Depression, it was huge. And then really in the 60s, it started to sort of fall apart. And I think that was mostly because you lost a couple of the big parks. And we've been sort of limping along with a lot of small businesses since then. And really in the last 5 years, there's been a big resurgence in interest.
And now we're in a real rolling chair circa 1909. And Aaron thinks that these might come back in fashion.
So when the boardwalk was long enough to actually merit, you could pay somebody to take you from one end to the other in one of these. So I'm longing for the day when there's enough going on out here on the boardwalk that it stretches from the parachute jump all the way past the aquarium, and these things are going to come back like that.
The ride continues in Coney. Stephanie Simon, New York 1.
We've seen the beginnings of the renovation and reimagination of Coney Island. When we come back, what does the future hold for those who grew up and still live here in the shadow?